This presentation is something that I also did in Gothenburg, and they asked me to, because there were so much people here, so they asked me to do something more than the first lesson I did earlier today. So I said I can do this again and just update it a little bit. And it's about, it was a description, it was very much for the international audience, kind of a description of the Swedish school system and some of the things that are very different in the Swedish school system. And also from an idea that I at that time was thinking about a lot about, and it was the differences that are now very visible between the Nordic countries. We are talking about, we still have a model of a Nordic model, Nordic values. And in many ways, we have very much similar values, similar sentiments in the Nordic countries, some kind of idea of the society, but actually our societies differ enormously nowadays in how we organize the welfare systems and educational systems. So it's about the devolution, how you and I try to make a point that maybe a de-evolution, an evolution of the school system. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a researcher part-time at Mälardalen University and part-time consultant and author, written a number of books, Swedish on the educational system, and now the last book that is more or less just hot from the press is Flip the System. And Flip the System is about system questions, but very much written out of a professional perspective for the teaching profession. How could we re-establish the profession? And it's very much critique about different influences from that complex idea of that complex of ideas that comes together in public management. So the Nordic model, yes, similar values, similar idea in many people's head, but the systems are radically different. And we go to the educational system, we could see that if you talked about the person from the Finnish school, they would say that we are adamantly against school choice. We don't want pupils to choose schools. We don't want to have too many free schools. We want a unified school, very much the same school system that Sweden had back before the 1990s. So, and in Norway we have a situation with more or less only a state school, as a national school system with nationally trained national teachers and stuff like that. And we have some influence from the public management in Norway, more on the level of management of schools, especially in the Oslo region, where you have tried with school choice models and also very much performance, rating testing and stuff like that. And the interest and a strong, interesting reaction from the teachers in Oslo and in Norway. I think in many ways Norwegian teachers act more like a profession than Swedish teachers have done the last decades. They more stand like a group that has something to say in the school system. They really oppose certain things that happens. And a very high discussion. If we go to Denmark, Denmark has quite many free schools, and traditionally have had many free schools. They are adamantly opposed to profits. So you can have free schools, and they like free schools, but they don't like profits in free schools. And you have recently had also some influence on trying to do testing and changing the role of teachers in Denmark. That was created huge protests from the teacher corps in Denmark and stuff like that. But then we have Sweden, who has gone all the way over in the markets, where we discuss it as if to have the opinion that school choice is maybe not good is then you are a communist. That's how the discussion sometimes is you could paraphrase the discussion in Sweden like that. And we have a full market model where we have a price tag on every student and a choice and a voucher model. And we have a totally individualized salaries for teachers, etc., etc. We have a goal objective management system, so we govern by objectives in a way that no other of these countries really do. So we have gone all the way, and that is a huge change, and the difference between Finland and Sweden in that sense is enormous. An interesting thing is that researchers, there's a guy in Germany, Marius Busemeyer, who has studied these phenomena and can also see that if you start to diverge in school systems, it's very likely that you keep on those tracks that you have started. There's some kind of logics in the choices you make that strengthen different choices that you make. So I would say that there is no Nordic model in that sense. There are Nordic values, yes, but not the Nordic model. And that was what started a bit of my force. So, yeah, I said all these things. And then we have the marketization for Sweden, and that's just information then for international. We have the decentralization with municipalities. We don't think about that as a new public management, but it is a part of that thought construct that you decentralize the decisions from the central government to more local governments. For many teachers, they talk about the municipalization and kommunalisering as the big evil event. And they don't really sort in different, I think they really oppose two things. There was the decentralization, municipalization was only about who was paying your salary, if it's the municipalities or the government. But it was, I think that when teachers talk about the municipalization, they also very often put in the next step, the regulation of the school system, the management by objectives. That they suddenly didn't have any rules to protect their work, or say their professional space. They were in the hands of the municipalities and the decisions made by municipalities in another totally different way than they were before the deregulation. And then you have, of course, a choice, vouchers and profits, a 1992 decision. When it would have been normal, it would have been logical for the right-wing government that came in to go back and, because they were very much against the decentralization and municipalization, a normal decision would be for them to say, okay, now we go back to the central government. But they didn't have that idea, because at that time they had the idea of even more, let every flower extremely. So they also wanted to go the whole way and give every parent and every child the right to choose, and you should have all these alternatives. If you go back and see some of those newspaper clippings from 1992, 93, 94, then you would see a naivety that's fantastic. Now, now we should give freedom for everybody to do whatever they want in the school system, and by giving that freedom, we will have the most fantastic school system you could ever imagine. That's not even paraphrasing any of it, really. I can see Beatrice ask, we shall have Europe, the best school in Europe. That's the headline for her. But she wasn't believe. And we have individual salaries for teachers, which is a very unique situation, that you are dependent on the principle for your salary and the level of salary and nothing else. As a teacher, you can't see a future ahead of you where you will have some kind of idea of where you will end up in salaries, because that's not a decision, that's not a system. It's depending on your relation with an individual principle at one time or another. And the only way you can really raise your salary in the Swedish system back, now we have a lot of reforms, but before that, the only way to really raise your salary, according to the OECD, was depending on the market, depending on the situation, the shortage or surplus of teachers, was then the only way was to change school, basically, to really affect your salary. And they said that is not a very good situation for a profession to have that. And then we have, so I think it's an important contributing factor in this is also the extreme version of constructivism that was visible among the authorities, educational authorities, and pedagogic institutions at the universities and in the municipalities, and I'll come back. So the consequences is teacher status falling, the development of salaries among Swedish teachers were, before all these reforms, the latest reforms, were like, there was no, in most countries people start with one salary and they end up with a very much higher salary. And in Sweden it was more or less aligned. There was no development of salaries over time in Sweden. As an example, I once said to when a journalist was present, I said on a presentation, and at that time I worked at the National Agency of Education, I said that the difference for an upper secondary teacher in chemistry in Finland and in Sweden is that when you ended up in the end of your career, it was 10,000 euros or 10,000 kronor difference per month between a Finnish teacher and a Swedish teacher, for example. And then the Finnish teacher were not extremely well paid in the OECD. They were more at the middle layer. And I said, that's the difference between riding a Volvo and a Ferrari. And that was quoted, and my boss at the agency thought that was a bit too much. But actually it is. You can lend money for a Ferrari for 10,000 kronor per month. No problem. Well, I don't know. I haven't tried, but I guess it would work. And we have inequality rising in the system dramatically, and that has been, that's for me, my what I feel very happy about with the recent PISA results. I do feel happy about the little fishhook in bettering of the results, but I feel most happy really about that the discussion now has centered around inequality in the system, and because the inequality of the system in the last PISA is still getting worse, and it has become the center of discussion in a way that it hasn't been for many years. I know even here, Academedia was one of the largest for-profit organization talking about that we have to do something about the voucher and the school choice system. And that is out of a concern for inequalities in the system, even from those who really profit from the system. Segregation is growing. There is a growing segregation by where you live, and that's a bottom line of it. But there is also a very strong segregation created by the school choice. And I will give you a local example. It's quite kind of very interesting to look on it. There's some economists that make national-wide analysis, and they can show very strong segregation. But the interesting thing is when you look local, when you go into a small municipality and look how is the situation, and that is the situation that teachers and principals see. They see this segregation. So to give you an example. And then we have a lot of scandals, of course, that gets newspaper clippings when schools are closed down with no notice at all. The kids get stranded on, without knowing what school they are supposed to go to the next day. And this is also things that when you talk to international other researchers or persons in other countries, they don't understand that how this system can survive with that kind of things happening. Because the first thing for a school system is, of course, to cater for the kids and the youth. That's the first thing to do. And when, in one of these scandals in John Bauer, it's 10,000 students that we didn't know. We have a lot of this.
Excuse me.
Yes.
What do you answer them if they ask you that question?
I say, my point is that this is a system that's problematic. I can't answer them. What should I say?
I'm just curious.
Yeah, but it's also there's the first shock that when we describe the system, because they can't really imagine a system that works like that. And I quoted the last time I had this lecture, I spoke to one of the most important mathematics professional development, which is at Matta. You should realize that. Because the inequality of the system in the last PISA is getting worse. And it has become the center of discussion in a way that it hasn't been for many years. I know even here, Academia was one of the largest profit-for-profit organization talking about that we have to do something about the voucher and the school choice system. And that is out of a concern for inequalities in the system, even from those who really profit from the system. Segregation is growing. There is a growing segregation by where you live, and that's a bottom line of it. But there is also a very strong segregation created by the school choice. And I will give you a local example. It's quite kind of interesting to look on it. There's some economists that make national-wide analysis, and they can show very strong segregation. But the interesting thing is when you look local, when you go into a small municipality and look how is the situation, and that is the situation that teachers and principals see. They see this segregation. So to give you an example. And then we have a lot of scandals, of course, that gets newspaper clippings when schools are closed down with no notice at all. The kids get stranded, without knowing what school they are supposed to go to the next day. And this is also things that, when you talk to international other researchers or persons in other countries, they don't understand that how the system can survive with that kind of things happening. Because the first thing for a school system is, of course, to cater for the kids and youth. That's the first thing to do. And when, in one of these scandals in John Bauer, it's 10,000 students that we didn't have. And we have a lot of this.
Excuse me.
Yes?
What do you answer them if they ask you that question?
I say, my point is that this is a system that's problematic. I can't answer them. What should I say?
I'm just curious.
Yeah, but it's also there's the first shock that when we describe the system, because they can't really imagine a system that works like that. I quoted the last time I had this lecture, I spoke to one of the most important mathematics professional development, and she said, "Matta," and she realized.